Hi there, welcome to our channel. I'm Vic.
And I'm Nick.
And we are MV Board Gaming. And today we're looking at Bitoku. This is a 1 to 4 player game. It is published by Devere Games and designed by Germain Milan. Nick is going to go through how you play, and then we're going to give our reviews.
In Bitoku, you are a spirit called a Bitoku who is trying to take over from the Great Spirit after their ascension. This game will be played over 4 rounds, each round consisting of 4 phases. Here is the main board. After your 4th round, you will be determined after the ascension who is going to be the winning spirit. And there is one player board. Let's go over some actions and how you play Bitoku. Alright, the first phase of the game is the spring phase. It is called the Awakening of the Forest. The very first thing you're going to do is you'll see you have 5 cards in your hand. These are the starter deck that everyone gets. You're going to shuffle them up and you will keep all but 1. Then you'll look at your 4 cards, discard one that you don't want for that round, and you'll have 3 cards left that you'll be playing this round. Also in this phase, it won't apply at the very beginning of the game, but during the game you could have these crystals that are purple up top. If they're purple, that means that you will earn them every single round. But beyond that, that is the end of the spring phase. So let's move to where you're doing the bulk of your actions, and that is the summer phase. In the summer phase, you have several options. You have 4 options. You can play a card from your hand, which is how you're going to generally start the game. So you have 3 cards in your hand. You're going to play one of these cards to do that action. So you could play this card here. You would do the move action, and this, wherever you played your card, will unlock this dice. Your next action is to use an unlocked dice. So you could use this too to perform an action on the board, which we'll go over more, all these other actions later, but I want to explain what are your options at this point. So if you played this card on the board, or this dice on the board, you would then have another action that you could possibly do, and that is to cross a river, which we'll go over soon. So you can cross a river with the dice that you place on the board. Your last option is to simply pass. Generally that means you have no options left, you just go ahead and pass, because you typically want to use every option you can as far as actions. So you saw already how we could play a card from our hand and do just the action that's on the card, which unlocks a dice. So what do you do with those dice? Well, when they're unlocked, you can assign them to worker placement spots on the board, on the lower side, the south side of the river that runs across the middle of the board. So there are various actions you can do that are depicted right here below the spot where you'll assign your dice. Based on the value of your die, you will get to do the action shown. So here you can do a movement of 1. Had this dice been higher, you can do more movement. Movement would be either up here, so you can start at this gate and then move on different spots. You can go across to get more points down the road, or you can go ahead and move up and then lock your position. When you move, you take from a supply that you have on your board. You start with 3 of these. You can unlock more on your board, but you will use one of these that are with the eyeball sign. So you start with 3, you can go ahead and start at the gate, and if I'm just moving 1, I just move right there. This is quite different depending on the side of the board you're using. You can see we're using the 2-player side of the board, so there's only one gate you just move out from. Had we used the other side of the board, it actually is in the middle, and you have a couple paths to choose from. Also, the board is recessed on the other side. At least in my edition it is. So you are moving 1 space based upon you using a 2 dice. Again, you would move even farther. Now there is a gate here which requires a certain criteria right there. We'll go over that soon. But this is movement. You could also move on your player board, which we'll go over soon when we go back to our player boards. Here we have various symbols. We have the dragonfly symbol. So there's a spot on the board where you can see these dragonflies. These you're trying to connect with these types of items here that actually you can see they have a divot in them, so you can connect them. So there are 2 different types here both are depicted right there. So if you have a 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, you can get these items. You get one of each. Unless it's a 6, you can get both. They may or may not have a cost depending where you select them from on the table. There are some that actually reward you even for taking them. So that's this. And these have, if you take this bottom part right here, I don't know the names for all these, trust me. These names are very difficult and I'm not studying all these. Just want to give you a brief idea of how you're playing, what this game is going to pan out like. So if you were to take this, you actually would get these rewards instantly. So you would get to unlock one of your dice and you would get a 1 amulet, which amulets, they actually increase the value of your dice, which are very handy. So you would get this instantly. Whereas the dragonfly, you will not get this reward until you connect it with the bottom. Then you will get the reward for the dragonfly, which in this case is to take a card here, a Bitoku card, which by the way, also is something you can use your movement for. But again, we're going to go over that shortly. Now let's go over here. This one is simple. This is where you get resources. So if you have a 2, you can get either a wood or a jade. And if you have more than that, you can select the ones you would like. If I move over here, I can either build or get a crystal. And I mentioned the crystals briefly when I said you had a purple one, it will automatically give you something at the beginning of every round. You also have pink and you have these orangish ones. The pink ones will unlock when you use cards. So there's a spot on player boards. Let me just get one that's not used so I can reference it. Right here. These are where the pink ones go. So that is saying whenever you use the card here, whenever you put a card down, you will get this bonus. In this case, we'll go over what that is in a sec. And the orange ones go in the same spot where the purple ones go. When you put one on these, be it purple or the orange ones, it will unlock one of these right here, which are the same things you use for movement. So you will go ahead and unlock this when you put an item down, and it will become active with the eye open. The orange ones give you end game points. That's what they do. Also, you notice any of these purple fish right here will give you end game points too if you have it revealed. At the beginning of the game, they are not revealed if you recall my player board. These are all covered, so you have to unlock them with these crystals. Same as over here. You can see there's 2 victory points. Well, those are all covered to start. So if you fill them up, they will become revealed and earn you victory points at the end of the game. You also have spots on your board. These will help not just with what is depicted, but with player order. So turn order. Right now you can see purple in this game is the first player. At the end of the game, if they're still the first player, they'll get 3 victory points. But aside from that, you're going to put these here. Whoever's higher up on this is going to be the first player. If no one goes there, the first player remains the same. And these, they don't have rivers to cross or anything like that. They just give you those bonuses along with preference on the turn order. They also have spots for buildings. So we didn't go over buildings. Right here, we had an option for gems, or the crystals, but not only that, we have the options for buildings. Buildings are also on your player board. You can see what the cost is. You're going to have houses right here. They cover up the victory points, and they also show what the cost is. So this generally is going to be covered with all these houses. And the very first one you build is going to cost 1 wood, the next one 1 stone, the next one 1 of each. And you can see that the victory points actually go up as you expose these buildings and use them. But that is what a building is going to be, and you have a spot on the bottom of the board for buildings. So there's 4 of these out here. You can go ahead and buy any of them. They all cost what it shows on the board. You can pick which one, and then it gives you a bonus. So when you do these actions, not only are you doing the actions here, but if you can afford them, if your dice is good enough, then you can do the actions here as well. If you buy this building, you have a symbol of where it belongs. So if you bought this building, you can put this down in one of those green leaf type areas. So like this. I can put this here, show ownership, that purple bought this. That's their building. They're going to move up 2, 1, 2, and they will get a 1 amulet just for have bought that building. Now in the future, if somebody went there, they can either activate the 1, or if they have a 5 or a 6, they can go and activate this one, which will move them up on that chart and activate 2 dice, just bringing them up to make sure that you can now use them. the person whose building it is will also get a bonus. In this case, they'll get 1 victory point and 1 amulet. So anything over here is what the owner gets, and anything that is over here on the left is what you get when you activate it, having come to this spot. And that is building a building. Now, your next option, because we just went over assigning a dice and doing that action. Now that you've assigned a dice, you have another option, which is crossing the river. When you cross the river, you lower the die by 1 and move across this river. And there you'll see you have some options to do here. You can take this card underneath to move around and to activate things on that bottom card. You can take this card to put in your hand, one that's actually showing like this, to put in your hand and use it. Or you can do 2 actions here that are not the same. Those include taking a spirit card right here. You draw 2 and take 1. These are all like end game objectives. You can see you get victory points if you were to accomplish it, but you also lose victory points if you do not accomplish it. So those can be high risk if you have too many of them, but they also give you aim during the game. Instead of that, you could go ahead and put one of your tokens here at the bottom of your board. These are actions I would like to go over shortly when I focus more on my player board. Or you can take one of the stones which correlate with what I just showed you. I'm going to go over that right now. So this is crossing the river. Now let's go over what some of these actions are on your board. Okay, looking closer at our player board, you can see we started with one of these rocks already. If we surround these rocks with these pieces here, these eyeballs, we would actually be able to get victory points off these rocks based on conditions listed here. So this one's saying that these are symbols you're going to see on these connections that we talked about briefly right here. You can actually see one of those symbols right there. I don't have that one, so this isn't an ideal stone for me. Now, if I look at some other ones, here is one that is more ideal for me. You can see that red flame. That's what I'm looking for in this rock. The number of these tokens that I surround this with is how many victory points I'll get times the number I have of these 2 symbols showing. So if at the end of the game and I only had this, but I had 3 of these surrounding, and I have 3 areas that can surround one of these. So I have this here. The first one's free, you get at the beginning of the game, and I surround it with these 3, which will be inactive because I'm now using them. That would be 3 points by virtue of 1 times 3. 1, 2, 3 times the 1 that I have. That is 3 victory points. In the future, when I add these stones, when I see the symbol to add the stones, or the rocks, we can add them in these spots, but it will cost resources of my choice to go right there. And that's the symbol you'll see, similar to that right there without the circle. You'll see that to go ahead and get one of those stones. To place the stones, you'll see something like an eyeball over the stone. So that's telling you, hey, you can place one of these eyeballs from your supply right here. You can place it on this and flip it over, and the eye is closed, and that's how you activate. So these are multi-use. You can use them for this, or you can use them for moving on the board where the gate is at the top. Now that we have our player board here, there's something else I wanted to show you. That was the other opportunity for movement. Now these cards I mentioned, remember I was able to draw one of these cards? Well, what they're used for is they're going to be played right here to connect with the path. And as an option, when I move, I can jump 1 space to here as well. This also opens up that prerequisite, that gate I showed you, where it showed a card with a check mark. That opens that up as well. So what this is saying is I got to move 1 with that cane action, and I can show you what that looked like again. Right there. That cane, that shows I can move. I can either move on the board or I can move right here. So I'm going to use it to move right here. I get 3 victory points, and then I have a choice of getting one of those stones, those rocks right here, or I could place one of these pieces on or adjacent to that rock. So that is a movement that is triggering one of these cards. Other things here on the board. Let's go ahead and get rid of these. When you get these, you have a spot for them as well. If you have just one, this isn't doing anything. However, like I mentioned, if you have this triggers right away. It's not until you get this part, this dragonfly, that you can trigger that one. And I mentioned that briefly. Okay, so at the end of your round, you'll have some options as well. So that, I think it feels like it pretty much covers the gist of what you're doing during the summer, a bulk of the game. You are assigning workers out, you're playing cards to unlock dice, which are your workers, and you're using your workers/dice to cross the river and activate different actions across, to take cards or what have you. So what are we doing in the autumn? Let's go over the autumn and the winter. All right, you thought the spring was the easiest because the summer is the most difficult. Well, the autumn is actually the easiest. All you're doing is determining in turn order who is the highest on the home of the Great Spirit. Well, the green player is the only person that went there. So instead of the purple player being the first player, we're going to adjust the turn order. And now the green player is the first player because they were the highest on this chart here. That is autumn. Okay, in the winter, the Guardians are going to return home. So you're going to take your dice back to your player board and put them in the red slots right here to show that they are locked. They are also going to stay the value that they are on the board. You're not going to be able to change them, but you will be able to put them in whatever order you would like on your board. Then you're going to be able to decide if you would like to discard any cards for the rest of the game. You can sell off those cards for victory points. Your base cards are all worth 3, but there are some cards like this one, for instance, that you can acquire during the game, which will give you different conditions for victory points. This one here says crystals. So for every crystal you own, you get 2 victory points up to 12 crystals. So if you get rid of this one, that will count for a different set of scoring. But all your base ones are 3 victory points. As long as you have at least 5 of these cards, you can go ahead and do that right now and get 3 victory points and get rid of this card. When you do, they go to the top of your board. There's a spot for them. They will not be played, but they could count for endgame scoring based on the symbol. Next, in the winter, you're going to take all the cards that you had in that you used during the game, during that round. You have those 3 cards. They are going to be going to your discard pile, and the cards that you had set aside in your draw deck will be put into your hand, and you'll draw back up to 4 for next round. You're also then going to advance the round marker. Go ahead and push that forward. Remember, the game is 4 rounds, so we're going to prepare now for the next round. Everywhere that there's a flame on the board, that will be discarded. The tile will be discarded, and things will be shifted right as we fill in what is needed. One last thing I'll mention before we go is we have these, in a 2-player game, there's a dummy player that sits here. In other player counts, no, you can just go ahead. But this is a little kind of like a race to try to get victory points. These tiles are laid out randomly, so you can see whoever's in first will get 4 points. Whoever's in second will get 2 points. If there's a tie, split the difference. So if there's 2 people on second place, they're going to get 3. If there's 2 people on first place, they'll get 3. If there's 2 people on second, I believe they'll get 1. They're going to split the difference. So these are all random out here, and they're just playing for the most distance on there. And that was the symbol that we were seeing with, it kind of looks like a radish. I was just calling them radish people, but yeah, they have a different name, obviously. But there you go. That gives you a gist of how you play at Bitoku. So let's go up top, and Vic and I will tell you what we think of the game.
All right. Thank you, Nick, for the teach of the game.
You got it, pal.
We're back with our review of the game. So we'll start off with Nick. What were some pros? What are some good things about the game?
Well, looking at the board, you can see world-class production, world-class looks. The art is world-class, top of the food chain. This first player token, I love this first player token. I think it's so cool. It looks like something out of Skull Hollow, kind of, how the meeple, the quality, and how many angles and all that. It looks cool. The antlers, everything looks really cool about that. The other one I don't even use, and it's still cool. That temple, I don't even use that to track the seasons, because some seasons are so quick they flow right into the other one. Like you saw, autumn was just so quick. It's just like, there's turn order. I ain't gonna mess with that thing. It just looks nice.
Yeah.
So again, off the charts production. Graphic design, I think, is good considering how many graphics they have to use. I think it's good. I also think that there are actions that are interesting, like the dragonfly and what's the other one called? Mitama Spirit, where they connect the dragon. Those two, I think those are interesting. The combos are fun.
Yeah.
I think the pilgrims, the multi-use of the pilgrims is good. I think that's interesting as well.
They're cute.
Yeah, I think that's cool how they're used for endgame scoring at the bottom of your player board. They can use for travel. I think that's cool. I like that concept. And I also think that, what else I write down here? I have a little list of things that I liked. The Bitoku cards, that was the last thing. Bitoku cards, a clever design choice that you have those tucked underneath your board, and that's another way you can travel and trigger off different things on those cards.
Yeah.
What about you? What are some positives you got?
All right, so pros for me, I will put this just out in front of me here. I loved the choices and the actions, and I agreed with Nick about the visual presence about the game, and the component quality is very strong, and it just has right away a nice look to it, and the color, it's very colorful and pretty. I thought that it had a lot of actions, especially with the dice repurposing. That you're placing the dice, but then you're going to cross the river and spin them down. If you have more than a one out there, like you can't, and you can even augment the dice, which is nice, to extend your action or change it. And then you can trigger off bonuses at the bottom that you may end up getting a bonus when someone else goes there. So it's nice that there's a lot of actions. So it feels like your turns are going a long while, which is nice. You can try out different strategies to score points. You don't always have to do the same thing. We, haven't played it that much, so I haven't identified like a straight path to victory. Obviously, you want to get yourself points at the end of the game for things that you've accomplished, like the set collection and stuff like that. You're going to want to try to get points from that, and so you want to kind of touch everything, but you also need to dedicate yourself in some ways to some areas. But I don't know, I'm not the expert on this game, but it does seem like you can try different strategies out.
Yes.
And different things happening. I love that there's the deck building, and like you said, the Bitoku cards and the repurposing of them and using them in different ways, having like the one card that you can choose to go under your thing and move with it, or you can have somebody to add and then decide to get rid of someone that you've played to then score points on them or use them towards a set or both. That's kind of neat as well. And I thought it was a tight game at 2 players. I thought it was really, the spaces, there's not a lot of slots that you can go, and so you're hoping someone moves across a river and you're able to get in that action spotter and then trigger off the bonus as well, especially if your building is there and you put that building there. So at 2 players, I thought that was pretty competitive. And the final pro for me was the player guidebook. I really like that everybody gets their own copy of the symbology so that it can just explain, what's going on. It has so much. It has the final scoring, and you literally get your own player rule book summary index. And I thought that's great. More games should do that, because I often reach over, Nick, let me see the rule book. I gotta check something, or I gotta look from afar. So I can appreciate that. Those are my pros for the game.
Nice. I wrote that down as well. The player, I just didn't see it. The player reference is excellent. It's a heavier game, so it's nice that they didn't cut it short. You can see sometimes like this isn't even useful, and this one actually is.
Yeah.
So that's nice. It comes in handy a lot during the game.
Yeah.
With all the symbology. All right. So negatives. You got some negatives?
Negatives. I guess I'll just roll into that.
Sure.
Negatives. I guess it can feel limiting at times with so many actions. Sometimes there's something you're set on, and you have to roll with the punches in a way and be flexible, because maybe you may not have the best, it may not be optimal that round for you to do something that you want to accomplish, and you got to deviate and go to something else. So that might frustrate some people if you can't just do everything you ever wanted to do, because, Nick wouldn't move from a spot, and I don't know if it was intentional, but he wouldn't move, and I really wanted to go there, and then because I went first, I had to, you have to really balance how you're playing out your dice when you're playing them, and your card playing onto your board as well to activate the dice. There's other ways to activate them too, but I just think that was interesting, that there was some limit to it, and some people may dislike that, so that could be a con. It did take a long time at 4 players, but we were just learning it, and I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what was going on. So the first couple rounds, I didn't really understand till the last 2 rounds. And then I really felt, okay, kind of getting this now. So that was it. Hard to say that, it took a really long time, but I don't know. I like it better at 2. Maybe 3 is the most I would do at this. And I just think that with all the stuff going on, it could be overwhelming to new players. For me, even somebody who plays games, I play heavy games. We try to learn this on the fly. Andrew did a really great job teaching. the game. He learned it on the fly. He hadn't watched any videos or anything.
He did.
Oh, he did? Oh,
Yeah.
All right. Well, he had a handicap, okay? But he did really well. And there was nothing wrong with his teach. But for me, I just was having a hard time I felt very, oh no, there's a lot happening here. So maybe some people may feel.
Yeah, so for those that don't know, we first played on Dice Tower Cruise with Andrew and Sam on our channel. And I thought, Andrew did a great job teaching this. I was teaching a different game somewhere else because I knew he had to learn a heavier game.
Yeah.
He watched one video, but those videos, they don't stick into your head like that much. You watch it several, maybe 2 weeks out, and then you try to recall it. It's like, you haven't actually played it, so it's not, you don't have anything to stick to it. So he did do a good job teaching that. And I actually thought, I thought it wasn't that complicated when I was learning it, but I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I was just on a roll or something. I felt like it was fairly straightforward what he was saying. I got it. But I can see that I didn't envy him because there was a lot to teach. And it's particularly hard if people aren't following. You have to keep recapping it. So I can see that this game could be frustrating to teach some new players.
Yeah.
All right, so negatives. Some actions are uninspired. The Kodama, moving that thing we call the radish, uninspired, not interesting. It's just like tacked on, like there's a little race going on for those in that positioning. It's just something to do. That's all it is. So that's one doc. I'll give another doc because I don't think that what Vic said that she may have thinks is cool in her review, I'm not sure, but the 3 actions you have to choose from. You can play a card, you can play a dice out, or you can cross the river. I feel like that decision that you make right there should be a little more robust the way this game is. Something feels kind of mechanical about it, like not in a good way. There's something amiss there. Like first I have to play a card. I don't have anything unlocked.
Yeah, to get the dice in.
Yeah, unless I have some crystal that lets me unlock something or something like that. I have to play a card. Okay, I can play a card. Where am I going to play it? I don't care. I'll just play it somewhere. I don't care. I'll unlock my 2. I don't care. I really don't. Unless there's something crazy that I'm totally forward thinking. I don't think so. Yeah. If you have a gem there and you want the sake or whatever you have in that spot, okay. I don't care. So I'm going to put that out. I don't care where I put it. I get that dice. It unlocks, and I can choose now. Do I want to play another card? Do I want to put the dice out? I can't cross the river yet. Okay, so I guess I'll put that dice out and put it here. Okay, now I have another option. Next turn. Do I want to cross the river? Do I want to play a card? I can't unlock a dice, I already use that. So do I want to cross the river? Do I want to play a card? The cards usually aren't that interesting, especially your base cards. Totally boring. Get it good. All right, your turn. So for a game this heavy, there is something to be desired there. I feel like it wasn't robust enough. Crossing the river, underwhelming, especially later in the game. And this is only a 4-round game. So in the 4th round, you might be able to take a card. If you already have 3 cards played, though, in any round, you get to take a card. Okay, I can't play it because I've already played my 3 cards.
Yeah.
So you got to, in that way, you have to time it out. You probably want to cross the river before you play a card because you want that card in your hand so you can play that card.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to discard that card for the points at the bottom, and I've done that a couple of times. To me, in a lot of situations, crossing the river, it feels kind of lame. Something about it. You either take the card for your hand, you take the Bitoku card, which is cool that we can travel with that. But at a point, you don't want those. You're like, I guess I'll dock my dice.
Yeah, and then you're taking that miscellaneous action area.
And sometimes, okay, I'm moving that radish thing again.
I know, yeah.
It's like things I don't really care about. That rock.
Yeah.
The rock is cool at first, but I'm not going to put out all those pilgrims to cover.
Rocks.
Yeah. I mean, if I really focus on it, that's an option, but is that exciting? Do I want to do that? I'd rather just travel and do all kinds of cool stuff with the Bitoku cards. So, hit or miss. Some things are a hit, and some things are a miss for me. They're just not exciting. It doesn't feel balanced. It doesn't feel like it's flowing. That is my biggest criticism. This game doesn't flow right. It just doesn't. It feels like a bumpy road. It's like, the whole time.
Jagged.
It's not like fluid. Boom! I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm doing. It's like, I gotta move the radish. I gotta cross the river just to get this card, and then your turn, and it feels.
And then
blah.
you realize like 2 turns later that you should have done the last thing first or whatever, and you're like, oh, okay, well it's done now because I've already played. You know what I mean? Like, oh, this card, I should have played this one first.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of those moments, and that could be a me thing, but I know what you mean. And that's the jaggedness to me, like the rough ride.
Okay.
Because it was just, it felt disjointed, yeah.
Yeah, for a lot of other games that flow more smoothly, this one unfortunately doesn't have that flow to it. And it's nice when you get those games that have a good flow, but they're still meaty. This game isn't that. It feels a little rough around the edges, although there's now mechanics you haven't really seen before. You've seen a lot of the mechanics before. You've seen the worker placement, even though that is minimal. You've seen a lot of these mechanics. It just kind of feels clumped together, odd. I don't know. The building's cool. I've seen it before, but I like the buildings, and I've seen it now in several games that do that, where you have your own building that you get things off. Creature Comforts, you get that. Lords of Waterdeep, you get that.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of games that do that. I do like that, though. I'm not criticizing. It's just like I've seen these things before, but now there's just so much of it that it's, I don't know. It doesn't feel quite as rewarding. But overall, let's go with scores.
All right.
So overall,
hit us with yours.
I'll hit you with mine. I'm gonna go 7-4. You know, I want to keep playing it. We've played it now 3 times. We played it 4 players. We played it 2 players a couple times, 2 or 3 times. So we played it 3 or 4 times. I wanted to keep playing it, but right now I'm at a 7-4, and I think my first play was the best because it was at 4 players. I think I liked it best at 4 of the 4 between 4 and 2. I'm sure 3 is great. 2, I mean, you don't have the recessed boards. That stinks. The board isn't as interesting.
Yeah.
Just something about it. I don't know if it's not that tightness or the dummy player, like that static. You can't move them even. I can't even move them. Like when I'm bringing someone back, I can't bring back the dummy player. They stay there no matter what it says in the rules. So I have to influence his Vix. I can't influence that one. Everything just feels kind of a little more tame, a little more sterile in a 2-player game versus the 4-player that I experienced. I would love to play it again at 3 or 4. But yeah, I'm at a 7-4. Hopefully Vic might be a little higher.
Yeah, so for me, I debated about this because is it my favorite game ever to play? No. Do I think it's a good game? Yeah, I do. I like it more than Nick does. I didn't think that was going to happen though.
I've won every game we played. I had fun with it, but yeah.
I did well the last time I played, so this has nothing to do with, my scores or anything. I got 8.3 for this. 8.3, definitely try it. Definitely try it before you buy it. What was it, $50?
Yeah.
It is.
I felt pressure to get it because there was like 1 copy left.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, I liked what I played. I'll play it. I don't know if it's going to go out of print. I would like to have it.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll see if how often this does get to the table. If somebody ever expressed interest or something and wanted to play it, I'm sure that would bring it out. But it's not going to be.
I would love to play it again.
Yeah, it's not going to be on the top of our list, though. I don't think.
2 players, I'm not even interested.
Yeah, which
have
is
a ton of
sad.
games.
Oh,
I'll play it, but not that interested.
Too many choices. So Bitoku, that's our review and overview of Bitoku. Thank you so much for joining us in this video. If you liked what you saw, please click the thumbs up button. It helps grow our channel. And subscribe for more great videos. We'll see you next time.
Bitoku!